Hello, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Timothy Lee, and I'm a research analyst at Red Cloud Securities, and I'm delighted to host a Red Cloud webinar on mineral exploration in Ontario today. We will hear from Greg Ferron, President and CEO, and Erica Doring, Corporate Development and Technical Committee Advisor of PTX Metals. During today's webinar, they will provide an overview and outlook, and then we will take questions. You can type your questions into the chat box at any time, and we will get to as many as we can. Before we kick things off, first we need to discuss some fine print. During this PTX webinar, forward-looking statements may be made. I would direct listeners to the company's forward-looking statements disclosure outlined on page 2 of the PTX corporate presentation, and that can be found on the company's website, ptxmetals.com. For Red Cloud Securities Inc., I would highlight that this webinar is for information purposes only. It should not be considered a solicitation or a recommendation to buy or sell securities. We note that this call does not consider the particular situation or needs of individual investors. Participants should rely on their own investigation and seek their own professional advice before investing. Please see our most recent research located on the Red Cloud website for specific disclosures pertaining to PTX Metals. So we have PTX presenting today. The company is truly polymetallic, as it is primarily focused on exploration for nickel, copper, and PGE deposits near the Ring of Fire area in northern Ontario. But they also have gold properties in the South Timmins area that are in a joint venture, and a portfolio of royalties on various exploration properties in Canada. With that, I now turn it over to Greg and Erica to update our audience on the company.
Yeah, so as mentioned, my name is Greg Ferron. I'm the President and CEO of PTX Metals, based in Toronto. And I'm going to talk a bit about the projects and strategy. And then Erica is going to give a technical overview. So thank you for attending. I've been the CEO now for 3 years. And the strategy of the company is primarily to continue to advance through exploration and improving our geological model and understanding of our copper nickel PGE project in northern Ontario, where we've got 2 large deposits known as the CA zones and the AP zones, and they're within about a kilometer of each other. And depending on the cutoff you use, you've got somewhere between 60 and 80 million tons of copper mineralization. So they're quite large projects. In addition, we're going to continue to advance our gold projects in the Abitibi, located near the IAMGOLD's Côté project. And then we'll continue to do corporate development as we've been doing the last 3 years as those conditions and market conditions warrant, and will benefit our shareholders. So yeah, it's been a very busy 3 years. We've been acquiring projects like the copper project and doing a lot of exploration on that project. In addition, with our gold projects, we've been enhancing them as well, adding additional projects, bringing in a joint venture partner. We've been raising a lot of capital and adding shareholders and improving our technical team as well, bringing in regional experience for each of our projects. So this is our portfolio. Our flagship project is the W2. It's one of the main ultramafic projects. It's the largest copper project in the northern part of Ontario, located just on the west side of the Ring of Fire. And we recently issued an exploration target, and which is very similar to a resource estimate. And that encompassed all the drilling we had done, and then as well as the past operators, including Inco and Aurora Platinum. And the goal this year is to continue confirming and expanding that resource to get it into a mineral resource. So we're located about 75 kilometers west of the Ring of Fire, and you're seeing a number of large players move into the district, like Barrick and Teck. We had a strong technical team, but we've been adding additional experienced individuals from the region, including Ryan Weston and Jim Mugnall, just bringing that expertise specifically for the W2 project. And the other reason I like this project is we are able to acquire it on very attractive terms. We're in Ontario, so great jurisdiction. We think we can get the at-surface copper resource significantly larger. And as the government, as you know, Ontario is very supportive of mining and they're very supportive of putting in the infrastructure in the northern part of Ontario. I think we'll really benefit in terms of our valuation as that happens. And then we've got our gold portfolio, where we made a number of discoveries last year, including at Heenan and Shining Tree. And we are just finished a drilling program at Heenan, following up on that discovery from last year. And then we're looking later in this year to put in place a drill program. We're just analyzing now at that high-grade structure we found at Rhonda. Just looking at our cap structure, we've got about 115 million shares outstanding. We just closed the financing for about $3.5 million towards the end of last year, and the proceeds from that are going to be primarily to advance our W2 drill program that's starting on March 3rd, and a number of other programs we have underway at W2, and then also that Heenan and Shining Tree program I mentioned in the Abitibi. We've got a large European shareholder base, a number of mining companies and insiders. About 50% of the stock is held sort of within those groups, and the stock is quite liquid. We trade about 200,000 a day, both here in Canada and as well on the OTC. And we're in the process of moving from the CSE to the Venture Exchange, which I hope will help increase our liquidity. And just quickly, for those of you who don't know me, I've been involved in the capital markets and trading and corporate finance, and I was involved with helping build Laramide into what I think is one of the most successful or best positioned uranium companies today in the sector, and also the CEO of Treasury Metals. When I became CEO, we had about a 30 million market cap, and when I left, it was about 190 million, well financed, and the mine building team had stepped in. And then I began working on PTX. I just want to bring your attention to Jorg Kleinbach. Jorg is the guy in the ground. I've now done 7 programs with Jorg, doing the drilling and the exploration at all of our projects. And he's a key guy to have involved. He's always on time, always on budget. And what I've been doing is enhancing the team just to build out the strategy and the regional expertise for each of the projects, both the copper and the gold assets. So Ryan Weston and Jim Mugnall were both involved with the original discovery of Eagle's Nest, and they've helped come involved and help put the strategy in place, recommend programs like the MAG survey we just completed, the IP work we're planning to do this year. And then Erica as well, and a number of other individuals have experience in the gold area. And Erica is also going to be helping on corporate development. I won't go through the whole board, but I'll just mention the 2 recent appointments. Federico Marx, he's a highly experienced M&A lawyer. He worked at Ballet, and he was involved with the Sigma Lithium IPO about 4 years ago. And John David Moore recently joined our board, and he's a well-known investor in Quebec. And the board are fairly significant shareholders. I think in total about 20% of the shareholder base is represented on the board. And this is just a map of our property locations in Northern Ontario. Obviously, our gold assets are located in the southern part of Timmins, and then our W2 project in the northern part. Its closest access point is Pickle Lake. The closest operating mine is Musselwhite. And then you've also got the recently gold mine put in production by Equinox called Greenstone. And Greenstone's a great example where the Ontario government, was able to get the First Nations agreements in place. A lot of infrastructure, roads, power lines were put in place both to benefit the mine and the local communities. And the same thing is happening in the northern part of Ontario. Last year, for example, 16 remote communities in northwestern Ontario, sort of north of Red Lake, north of Pickle Lake, received power. And there's another 6 or 7 communities this year that are going to be getting power and roads, which is really helping develop the northern part of Ontario. And there's a big push from the Ontario government to have this copper nickel region developed. And we have the largest copper deposit in the region. It's at surface. It's a big tonnage, about 150 million tons. We think that it could easily be expanded 2 times that just by extending and expanding around the 2 main deposits, the AP and the CA zones. And some of the neighbors, as you can see, Barracks beside us, Teck just moved into the east. And then Wailu and Juneau have had a presence for a while now in the Ring of Fire. And we have the Lansdowne House. Igneous Complex is one of the 3 well-known intrusions in the camp. And there's been about 20 million, 25 million of historical drilling spent on the property, mainly by Inco. So that's a significant advantage, I believe. So it's not a grassroots project. And if you just look at the size of this to some of our peers, you can see, this is a large tonnage project, trading at about a 15 million market cap. So I think a lot of upside as we de-risk the project through additional drilling and other programs and expand the size. And it should get re-rated as the project is converted to a mineral resource and as the market conditions continue to improve and as that infrastructure comes in place. This is our gold portfolio. In purple, we have 75% interest in the Shining Tree project, where we had that high-grade discovery last year at the Rhonda project. Erica will speak to in a moment. And the strategy there is there's a number of small resources in the different zones at Rhonda and Herrick, and to see if we can start developing an economic resource. And then we also had a discovery at the Heenan project. It was a greenfield discovery last year, just 3 drill holes. And we've since gone out and stepped out and trying to expand that low-grade at-surface discovery and seeing if we can find a higher grade zone, or if this mineralization continues along strike. And that program has been completed, and we'll have the assays announced sort of within the next 30 days. So before we get into the technical discussion, just the work we're doing, and the one point I did want to bring to your attention is we spent a lot of time digitizing, and we now have all the historical assays and drill data and assay certificates for all the operators, Inco, Aurora Platinum, KWG, and then the drilling, of course, we did last year. And that's really allowed us to enhance the geological understanding. We completed the exploration target, which is a resource model, and we've now sort of put that exploration target up with the geology of the deposits and done an in-house resource. And we've also completed a heli-mag GT survey across the property, which is helping us both with this drill program and as well as the expansion drilling. And then we're going to get out and begin drilling that new CA zone that we acquired. It was the last of the 5 acquisitions we've done to put the project together. We had the sort of the central area and the one main deposit called the AP zone. We didn't own the CA zone, so we closed that as the last sort of key acquisition. And that's where we plan to go drill with this program, focusing on confirming it, increasing the confidence, and as well as looking for high-grade extensions. And we're going to plan doing some IP as well. And then longer term in the spring and summer, we'll get out and look at some of the regional potential. And then, as mentioned, we completed the drill program at Heenan, and we're looking at beginning the Shining Tree drilling program a little bit later in the year, and then just looking to expand on our shareholder base and looking for strategic investments and possibly spinning out some of our non-core assets. So now, Erica, I can pass it over to you.
All right. Well, thank you, Greg. I think we're just going to get into a little bit of a technical overview, and I'm not going to get too much into the detail. But this is W2, so, as we've been talking about, we have this 22,000 hectare ground. It's a fairly large claim block that is right next door from Barrick and very close to Teck and Juno in the Ring of Fire. This project is particularly interesting because so far, what we're focused on is the central target. So the central target is where the resource is. So we have an initial resource in 43-101, and we've been improving it little bit by little bit. We also have additional targets outside of this area, but I think looking at valuation and spending for the company. The central target so far is the primary target, right? But we still do have a lot of ground that could be covered for the future and expansion of what we've already looked at. So far what we're looking at that was released in the past was about 59 million tons at about 1% copper equivalent, and that's considering a 0.7% cutoff copper equivalent. So all of that we're based on over 16,000 meters of drilling so far. So here's really quick an overview. We've been working really hard in rebuilding a new resource model. This is non-compliant, non-43-101, the new internal resource. But we can definitely see that we have some improvements. W2, PTX has been doing some drilling recently. And so adding up, confirming some past holes. So we're dealing with an idea of around 80 million tons. If you do lower the cutoff to 0.5%, and you could eventually add up an over 20 million tons as well on top of it. So as a starter point, this is just a starter point. We're already near 100 million tons of copper equivalent at a cutoff of 0.7. So the interesting part of it, I'm just doing a quick zoom on the central target. We've been talking about the CA zone, the AP zone. So the CA zone is right over here, like in the central part of the area. Just the CA zone is comprised within like 4 kilometers. We're planning to drill it this year, an additional 6 holes. It could be more, so it's about 1,000 meters, and we'd like to little bit by little bit expand the resource and confirm all the numbers. Oops. So this is what it looks like in 3D. So as you can see, compiling all the past drill holes and all the current drill holes, and as well, this is an estimate of our drill plan coming up. What we're looking at really is the intersection and the relationship with Gabbro. So in the Ring of Fire, Gabbro is really the host for the mineralization, and this is what we're looking at for W2 as well. So we have a very similar pattern than the actual core of the Ring of Fire, and we're investigating if this belt that we're in could be also part of the Ring of Fire when it comes to age dating and everything else. When it comes to intercept, we have very decent wide intercept, very near, like shallow near surface. You're looking at 43 meter at 0.5% copper equivalent, 46 meter 0.46% copper equivalent, etc. I mean, there's so much. I was trying personally to kind of shorten and summarize all of those intercepts, but it's really hard to do so because it's every hole actually hit and you have really decent intercept. So I think there's a really bright future for this project. So let's jump really quick into the gold asset. This is the Shining Tree property. We are right next door from the Juby deposit from Aris Gold. Juby is estimated about 2.3 million ounces of gold. We're right next door, and the interesting part of it is that there's this major structure called the Rideout Tyrol Fault that's going through Côté Gold and Juby, all the way to Juby. And it's known to be the host for million ounces deposits. So we're right on this fault, and we also have a part of what we call the splay. So usually the splay of the structure and the main fault is what carries the grade. We have done quite a bit of work, surface work primarily. We had some drilling, back in 2011. That came back, 10 meters at 2.6 grams per ton gold. I think we are at the stage right now where we've done quite significant channel sampling, surface sampling, and the next step is really to go and to get in there and do a lot of drilling. The access is really good. We have roads, and all year pretty much we could be drilling. We don't have much, trouble when it comes to lakes or water. So it would be it would be really interesting to come in and have very cheap drill program to make it happen. So just a quick zoom in, what's the actual interest? Because Shining Tree is also a 20,000 hectare project, so it's fairly large. As a focus so far, what we're looking at is the Herrick target and the Ronda target. And this is just to give you an idea of, 3D, why we're so excited about it, especially the Ronda target, because the Ronda, it was drilled, back in the 90s. It is not compliant. We could not use it, and it was not that many holes. However, what's very interesting is that we've done some channel sampling last year, and it came back 16 meter at 9 gram per ton gold. I mean, this is very decent channel sampling. 1 meter came back at 60 gram per ton, so we are hitting some very, very high grade. Just below it, we have about 6 level of underground working that was done in the past, and it goes down to 270 meter depth. So this is something that definitely we have to follow back up on it, and we have to come and really drill it properly and extend and understand as well the ore shoot to get the high grade out of it. So that's really the intention. And the Herrick target is a really good one as well. Some past drilling came back 46 meters at 0.65 gram per ton, or 5 meters at 4.3 gram per ton. We have identified an ore shoot, but it still needs quite a bit of work to grow and define, and little bit by little bit, hopefully we could create a resource and grow the idea. And just recently, we've been drilling that over project that we have Hinden and Malyard. Hinden and Malyard are just bordering Côté Gold to the north. So it's a very interesting project. We also do have that kind of structure coming out of what I was talking about, the Rydal Tyrol main shear zone structure that carries one of those major deposits. So we've staked it, and we acquired it not that long ago, and we've done some prospecting from surface. We highlighted some pretty significant and decent results from the surface trenching, and we decided to drill it in 2023, and we came back to drill it even more and really identify what was out there. So we're still waiting for those results. But when it comes to trenching, it came back, 8 meters at 2.4 gram per ton gold, 2 meters at 4 gram per ton gold. So we have really significant results that we showed, and then now we are chasing through drilling. Greg, do you want to step in for this one?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, yeah, just to wrap up. So as mentioned, we have 100% interest in a large copper nickel deposit in the northern part of Ontario at the resource stage. And we're funded to drill that. We'll begin drilling it on March 3rd. We're quite excited about that just because of all the additional work we've been doing over the last year in terms of modeling and improving the geology. Again, the same thing with the gold assets as well. We're going to continue after the Heenan project. We'll begin drilling the Ronda target, and then in a great jurisdiction in an improving market, and I think our valuation will improve both from the improving market conditions as well as through exploration, and then potentially as we exit some of our non-core assets. So happy to take any questions, Tim.
Great. Thank you, Greg and Erica, for the very informative presentation. We will now start the Q&A portion of the webinar. Reminder to everyone on the line that you can type your questions into the chat box at any time. We already do have a couple of questions. First, on the permitting side, what permitting do you need to be able to conduct exploration, including drilling on your projects?
Yeah, well, at W2, the project's fully permitted for exploration. We received 3 permits. The eastern targets were received first. out to the east of the property. And then the central areas received, I can't remember, 18 months ago. And we did complete a drill program last year. And the AP zone was more of a step out program and drilling some targets. And then when we closed that final acquisition of the CA zone, we had to obviously permit that after we closed it. And that's been completed. And that's the area we're going to focus on drilling this winter.
Great.
And then at Rhonda and Timmins, yeah, most of those permits are in place, and obviously permitting in that region is quite quick. There is a permit that we do need to get to complete to start drilling at Rhonda. We only have a trenching and stripping permit at the moment.
And kind of related to that, what you did touch on the First Nations and community relations side, but to summarize, what relationships and agreements, obviously we're at the exploration stage, so sometimes there aren't formal agreements required, but what agreements do you have with First Nations groups?
Well, at this point, our operations are based out of the Webequie First Nation, so we use their camp, for gas and hotel, and we have our drill core location set up there for analyzing the drill core. So and they were involved as well with helping set up the locations of the holes. So they're quite involved, but we don't have any formal agreements in place other than some support agreements for these particular programs. I don't think that they're needed necessarily, and each First Nations in each region is unique, really. But yeah, we definitely keep in touch, and it was quite a lengthy exploration permitting process dealing with all three of the First Nations in the area. And most of the First Nations, as you know, in the region, 3 of them are now behind getting the EA for the roads done. Another 6 or 7 have signed on support agreements to have the roads and infrastructure built. So yeah, my goal would be to get exploration type agreements and other IBAs as these projects are advanced past the resource and through maybe at the economic stage. You'd want to do that.
Okay, great. Now I'm going to assume this is referring to the Ring of Fire area, but what is the joint venture opportunity in that area? Would you consider bringing in potential partners, and which companies would you eye for that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's certainly more expensive to work in that region compared to say Timmins. Probably 4 times the cost per meter. But yeah, I mean, we do have a fairly significant asset that I know will be of interest to some of the majors in the camp that are there now. And we mentioned the names, Teck and Barrick, for example. But, right now we've got to de-risk it further. We've got to get more of our own drilling done. We want to convert that exploration target to a mineral resource. So by doing our own confirmation drilling or expansion drilling, we'll get the drill core. So that's a key goal right now. And then there's a lot of expansion there's a whole Gabbro area in the northwest along where Barrick is. Only 3 drill holes have been put in that area, and it hit copper. And then there's an ultramafic nickel area just north of the central area that again's only had 3 exploration holes, and it hit nickel. And then there's a whole eastern targets. And then we believe that the mag surveys show that the central area is likely one large deposit. So we think there's a lot of work to be done before we would consider a sale. And then, I think as we get more work done, there will definitely be interest building up for a joint venture or sale of the asset. Because, it is by far the largest copper deposit in the region. There's some large chromite deposits. And then, of course, you've got the high-grade Eagle's Nest deposit as well. So having a big tonnage copper nickel project of this size will definitely be of interest, especially as the infrastructure comes in.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I kind of following up on that, I did have a question on kind of keeping tabs on the neighbors a little bit, perhaps. But how active is Wyloo up there, and what do you see as the potential timing of getting that road eventually built?
Well, there was a big announcement last month with the Ontario government where they had a a $20 million payment to the Norland First Nations, which was the last First Nations close to the rail line. So now you've got the 3 First Nations all supporting the environmental assessment and working to get the road approved. So yeah, I believe over the next 18 months, you'll see a lot of progress with, breaking ground and getting those approvals in place. And there's also actually an east-west road too that would come in from Pickle Lake. And then you've got all the power lines coming in from northwestern Ontario. So you're going to be seeing a lot of development in this region, especially now that you've got the support from the communities as well as the government to open up a new copper nickel camp just for the critical minerals. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. So the timing, I think, would be over the next 18 months.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. And one question here, do you have 43-101 reports for your projects?
Yeah, we do. On our website and on CEDAR, we filed a recent 43-101 for W2. So what that did is it summarized all the historical work by the past operators. It's a very detailed report, 150 pages. And it also summarized that exploration target that we were talking about, which is very similar to a mineral resource. It's located in section 14 of the 43-101, but it's not a mineral resource because we don't have a lot of the historical drill core. And then we also have one on Shining Tree as well. And again, that just summarizes all the historical work. And that's current as well.
Okay, great. And the historical drill core, is that something that you could potentially acquire, or is that, lost in a wooden shack somewhere?
Yeah, I think there's a chance. Well, we obviously have our drill core from our last program, and we're going to have more drill core for the CA zone starting in March, which is great. Because the history of the project, it's been quite fragmented. You've had 3 different owners do a lot of different work, and it's never been consolidated under one owner. So when Aurora Platinum had it, they had the Northeast. When Inco had it, they had the CA zone, right? So now it's all consolidated under one owner. So I think there's a chance we can get the core from the 2005 to the 2002 drill program by Aurora Platinum. We haven't been able to locate it yet. And then there's probably a lot of core on the ground that will eventually get out and get in the summer. But I don't think it's going to be usable. Like, I doubt the Inco core is available. I mean, it's now, obviously, they've all changed hands, right? Aurora Platinum was bought by FNX. They got bought. Inco got bought. So, yeah. So it's probably going to be difficult to get all that drill core. But what the QPs have said is, you'll need to go out and do a certain amount of confirmation drilling, or in a certain deposit, you may need to do 10 holes in a certain area before they'll give you the credit for the historical data, because we do have the assays and in the assay certificates.
Okay, great. And you had mentioned that with the gold projects, you'd look to potentially sell or spin out those projects. Can you tell us a little more on that plan, and what kind of timing would you be thinking about for that?
Yeah. Well, for now, we definitely want to keep the gold assets within PTX, because there's obviously a lot of synergies having one public company that can access capital and a similar synergies with the team. But eventually, I think after we drill we want to see the results from Herrick, and now you've got Côté. Obviously, they're in production and looks like it's really quite a successful operation. That's brought a lot of attention to the region. So we've been waiting for that, and we obviously would like to drill that high grade structure we found at Ronda. And then on the back of those results, in the strong gold market, it could make a lot of sense for the two of us, PTX, who owns 75%, and PANXF owns 25%, would be to list that as a separately traded gold vehicle in Timmins. Or another idea would be you could do further consolidation. There's other juniors, there's other deposits in the camp that you could consolidate and spin out. So really, we've been waiting for sort of the market conditions to improve and for us to get a lot of. We've been, we didn't really get into it, but we've been very busy the last three years on Shining Tree. We've done several thousand gold and till samples and geochem samples and updated all the IP and the mag, and there's been a number of drill programs and trenching and stripping, as Erica talked about. So there's a lot of value to unlock.
Great.
And one way to do that is through a spin out. Because right now investors, are you buying it for the copper, or are you buying it for the gold assets, or both? So.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we definitely have some ideas we're working on.
Okay, great. And another question here, kind of shifting directions a bit, always popular. How much cash do you have on hand, and how far will that get you with your current plans?
Okay, I'll let Erica answer that one. I'm just joking. Well, we just raised $3.5 million, and that is, I'd say about $2 million of that is going for the drill program, the mag survey that we've recently completed, and then all this in-house resource and geological modeling, the aging that Erica talked about, the review of the mag and the IP, and then the balance is the drilling and at Heenan was only $200,000. So we have some capital for the Shining Tree project, and then the balance for marketing. So, we'll look to finance after the copper results are announced, unless something comes up sooner in terms of some of the corporates or institutional investors we've been speaking with.
Great. And kind of on the technical side, obviously, you've focused on the bulk tonnage, sizable copper, nickel deposits up there. Is there also high grade potential that you're seeing with some of the targets up there?
Yeah, definitely. Erica, I don't know if you want to handle that.
Yes, sure. We have definitely seen some high grades, up to 13% copper, I believe. And so there are definitely some very high grade zone. The initial drill program that we've done was very specific in an area. So now we're trying to expand and understand a little bit better the extension that could take the whole deposit. The reality of it is it's fairly large. Just the CA zone that we've been talking about go over 4 kilometers, right? Not everything as of today is part of a resource. Obviously, we only have patches within that CA zone that are, part of what we would consider as an internal resource, non-4311. We also do have some spatial distribution, because we also have nickel, we have gold, palladium, platinum, that we are considering as well. So, but this is something that little bit by little bit we're building our understanding and zonation of the deposit, but we do have high grade.
Great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the copper grade is, I don't know if you want to bring the map back up, but the copper grade is fairly consistent in both deposits, and there is in the AP, the northeast area of the project, that's where you seem to get higher grade nickel results, as well as the palladium is quite high grade. You get almost a gram per ton of precious metals in the AP area when you use a fairly conservative cutoff. And then, as Erica said, I think we saw up to 2% nickel, up to 15% copper, several grams of gold per ton. These are over shorter intersections, and then it's a disseminated system. But when you do hit the massive or semi-massive at W2, you obviously do see a spike in the grade. And so we're going to continue to focus on the disseminated because we're trying to grow the bulk tonnage. But as we learn the deposits more, we'll focus on also trying to find the massive and semi-massive where you get better grade.
Yeah, actually, I just want to add to that we've been kind of trying to focus our understanding where is located that high grade, and it seems to be at the contact with the gabbro. So it seems to be at the contact with the gabbro, and that gabbro is, what I mentioned just before, is actually more potentially related to the Ring of Fire. So we're doing age dating to figure out is it the same gabbro or how is it? But it is definitely related to the mineralization. So we have the high grade at that intersection, and then you have kind of layers on the side, like dissemination on both sides on the margin of it, that will give you volume. So, but it's still kind of like low grade to mid low grade, call it this way. So you can get like anywhere 30 meters of intercept, like we've seen like 40 meters all the way to 100-meter intercept. And it's near surface, which is pretty decent.
Great. Great. Well, maybe just to review, kind of a wrap up, what are some key news items or catalysts that we might look forward to over the coming months?
Well, we'll announce all the work we've been doing on W2, because we haven't just been planning for the drill program, like the mag survey, the IP, and so the internal resource. So we'll get an update out shortly, probably around PDAC, about that work, and as well as the drill program commencing on March 3rd. And then, of course, we've got our assays from the Heenan drilling as well, and our migration to the Venture Exchange as well. And then, as we, the board just approved to complete the Rhonda review and how we should best tackle Herrick and Rhonda. So we'll announce the commencement of that work as well a little bit later in the year. I'm not sort of committing to any time at this point. So that's the main news we have planned.
Okay, great. Well, things to look forward to. Well, I'd like to thank Greg Ferron and Erica Doring for presenting today. And thanks everyone on the line for tuning in. Please join us on Thursday when Red Cloud's webinar series continues with Bunker Hill Mining presenting Thursday, February 20th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Have a great rest of your day and happy investing.